I want to share with you an idea that is as relevant today as it was 3,700 years ago. It's an idea that comes straight out of the story of Nadav and Avihu. The whole story of Nadav and Avihu, out of the blue, bringing a ketairis inside of the Mishkan, knowing full well that you can't just waltz into the Kodesh HaKodashim and bring your carbon, and then they could subsequently get killed by some heavenly fire. That whole story is amazingly bizarre. Here are two children of Aaron HaKohen, the first and greatest Kohen Gadol in history, grandchildren of Amram, the leader of the generation, and great-grandchildren of Levi, one of the 12 Shvatim. And yet, on the very first day of the Mishkan's installment, like the literal climax of the Ruchnius journey that the Yidden were on in the Midbar, they act disobediently and make trouble, and they go where they shouldn't go, and they run past security to bring their own version of a carbon and get burned by a heavenly fire as a punishment? Like, what exactly were they thinking? What led them to act that way? And what's even more bizarre is the discrepancy in Chazal as to exactly what they did wrong. In Masechtas Eruvin Daf Samech Gimel Amud Aleph 63a, it says that their sin was that they ruled on a halacha, albeit correctly, in the presence of their teacher Moshe. Chazal in Vayikra Rabbah and in Sanhedrin and Beis Man Aleph, they offer 4 other reasons for their death. Some say it was because they chose to remain unmarried. Some say it was because they entered the Mishkan after drinking wine. Some say it was because they brought an alien fire before Hashem. And some say it was because that when they walked behind Moshe and Aaron, Nadav and Avihu would tell each other, they would say to each other, when will these 2 elders die already so that we can lead the generation? So let's take a step back for a second. Who does that? Who exactly were these people? From the way Chazal describe it, they would come across as 2 sort of adventurous young men who act on impulse and bringing a ketairis, an alien fire to Hashem, who are power hungry, who are drinking too much wine, who are unmarried, who are not exhibiting proper respect for Moshe and wishing for the deaths of their very own uncle and father. Does that make any sense? They were Nadav and Avihu, sons of Aaron HaKohen. How could it possibly be? How could they act like this? And also, what exactly do these reasons have to do with each other? Are they all just random negative traits that were harbored by Nadav and Avihu? There's just some sort of common thread that runs through all 5 of these reasons. So Reb Reuven Katz in his Sefer Judaic Reuven, volume 2, page 29, he writes the following excellent explanation. He says, Nadav and Avihu were certainly not disobedient, power-hungry young men hoping to grab the reins of power from their father and uncle. Not a bone in their body had bad intentions. They merely believed that they could bring a new and fresh vibrancy to serving Hashem, a new spirit that would energize the younger generation to better and more energized fulfillment of mitzvahs, new innovative ideas beyond the current way of the elders. Things like delaying marriage to enable one to mature and gain independence, or using alcohol as a means to ignite passion in one's service of Hashem, or bringing new fire into the Mishkan, bringing new life into the younger generation who might not relate to the instructions and the ways of the elderly, and so confident about the rightness of their way that they were willing to decide on these matters without consulting their elders. They were so confident and passionate in their new and energetic way of serving Hashem that they aspired for the day that they could disseminate their ideas and make them part of Klal Yisrael's Messiah of Avodas Hashem. But since that would be impossible as long as their sort of old school mentors lived, they were relegated to waiting for the day that Moshe and Aaron would die, and that they would then be the leaders, enabling them to introduce the people to their ideas that the Torah refers to as Eish Zara, alien fire. Nadav and Avihu, although undeniably righteous and completely well-meaning, discounted the power of tradition, the power of the elders, the power of doing things the way our parents and grandparents did them. They overestimated the value of change and innovation, failing to see that the inability of the younger generation to connect was more a problem with the younger generation than a problem with the system itself. Hashem's harsh and quick removal of this alien fire sent a very strong message. Just because we can't connect to the Avodah doesn't mean there's something wrong with the Avodah. It means there's something wrong with us. If we don't feel connected to Shabbos, it doesn't mean there's something wrong with Shabbos. It means there's something wrong with us. If we don't connect to prayer, to tefillah, it doesn't mean there's something wrong with tefillah. It means there's something wrong with us. If we don't connect to the Torah, it doesn't mean there's something wrong with the Torah. It means there's something wrong with us, with our outlook, with our emotional investment, with our enthusiasm, with the way we're doing it. Hashem is telling us that we must be cautious with innovation and change in Judaism, and we can't just be too quick to assume that any flaws that appear in Yiddishkeit stem from the way it's been done by our parents before us for thousands of years. We have such confidence in our Torah and our Messiah that we don't change it to fit our lifestyle. We change our lifestyle to fit the Torah. We have such confidence in the Rebbeim who gave us the Torah that we would never dream of coming up with new ways to interpret Avodas Hashem. Here's an example. The Gemara in Sanhedrin, Daf Hey and Beis, says something remarkable. It says, Rav spent 18 months on a farm just to verify one halacha found in a Mishnah. 18 months on a farm for one halacha. Look how careful Rav was to ensure he understood the truth. 18 months on a farm just for one halacha, because getting it wrong wasn't an option. Precisely because we know that we have teachers like that, who we revere them and we humble ourselves to their word, to the way they did Avodas Hashem. It is for this reason that you can go to any shul in the world, a shul in Paris, a shul in Sydney, a shul in Vancouver, and Casablanca, and Tehran, and Bangkok, and Jamaica, and Rhode Island, and the Sifrei Torah being read are all completely identical. There are zero meaningful differences between them. You know how many differences there are, significant differences there are, between the text of the various Christian groups? Over 100,000. 0 versus 100,000. Because when you have such deep respect for the teachers that taught you, you don't dare change even one iota. Precisely because we are so confident with the way we do things, are we able to slam the door to the ways of the street, no matter where we are in the world, and we can look inside of our homes and appreciate the magic of Avodas Hashem gives us. This trait of the Jewish people was so obvious that even Bilam HaRasha noticed it. We all know the story. Bilam wants to curse us, and he ends up giving us a bracha. What does he say? He says, Ma toivu oyalecha Yaakov mishkanesecha Yisrael. We say it every morning. How beautiful are your tents, Klal Yisrael. And Rashi comments, Al shara pischein she'ein mechuvan zeh mezuzah. He saw that our doors were not arranged in a way that they could see into another person's tent. You ever thought about that? That's our big bracha. That's the big difference between us and the non-Jews, that we don't have our bedroom windows adjacent to other people's bathroom windows. That our front doors are built in a way that we can't see directly into another person's front door. That's our greatest praise. Any half-decent guy would do that. Any half-decent, self-respecting non-Jew isn't building his house with the front door directly overlooking the bedroom window of his neighbor. What was the big bracha? So the answer, says Rabbi Hopfer, my wife's grandfather, is that it means that we have homes in which we're so happy with the light and the beauty and the happiness and the ruchnius that's on the inside. We don't need to pry our neck and see what other people are doing on the outside. We don't need to look for the latest modern trends to see how we can shoehorn Judaism into it. We are happy with the homes we inherited from our parents and grandparents and are confident and enthusiastic about perpetuating it. That's what Ma Tovu means. That's what Ma Tovu Alecha means. That's how we start each day. Precisely because the Jewish people are so confident with our homes and the way we've been serving Hashem for thousands of years, do we have homes that are filled with the most spiritual music on the face of the earth. Do you know who the single greatest musical composer of all time is? The single greatest musical composer of all time was a man named Ludwig van Beethoven. Beethoven's music has been played at every concert hall in the world. His music was talked about and listened to and danced to perhaps more than any other single person in the history of humanity. He has the most instantly recognizable music on the planet. Beethoven is considered to be the most impactful and successful composer in world history. Now, here's the most incredible part. Beethoven was deaf. Yes, you heard that correctly. The single greatest composer in the history of the world was deaf. He could not hear the music he was playing. Beethoven, while living in Vienna in his early 20s, he began slowly losing his ability to hear. After several years, he went deaf completely. Beethoven, at that point, he was having a decent career. He was giving concerts here and there. But the moment he went deaf, he completely removed himself from public life out of embarrassment. I mean, what good is a composer and a musician that can't hear? So Beethoven, he ran off, he lived in a shack on a hill in the Austrian mountains. He was broken, he was depressed, but after taking a break from music and overcoming thoughts of suicide, Beethoven pulled himself together and he sat down at a piano for the very first time in a long time and he began composing again. And he reached deep into his mind and his heart, and from memory and from brilliance and from sheer unadulterated creativity, he made a new composition, and then another, and then another. And what transpired next is nothing short of sensational. The compositions that Beethoven composed while he was able to hear, they were good. But the compositions that came from him while he was deaf changed the way people view music forever. They reverberated around the world. They are not only his most famous compositions, they are the most famous compositions of music ever written. They are played in every corner of the globe. They are the standard music taught in music schools. They are the songs played at the most important events. They make up the most successful pieces of music to have ever been played. What happened? What transpired? How could a man who is deaf compose such beautiful music? The answer is that when Beethoven went entirely deaf, he no longer composed music with his ears. He composed music with his soul. He no longer had ears contaminating his music with the music of others, with the white noise of the street. He blocked all the mediocre sounds of the world out and let the music he felt in his soul gush forth. He was deaf to the way other people did things. He was deaf to the status quo. He was deaf to what other people considered nice. He was deaf to what the peanut gallery was up to. And because he was deaf, he was free to live in a world where he got to set the rules. And from those rules came the greatest music to have ever graced the earth. The Jewish people are the single greatest composers of spiritual music on earth. We sang 3,000 years ago. We sang 1,000 years ago. We sang last year. We sang today. We'll sing tomorrow. We sang in history's highest moments, and we sang in history's darkest moments. We sang walking into the Beis HaMikdash, and we sang walking into gas chambers. We sang when the world was good. We sang when the world was bad. The Jewish people are the single most successful composers of spiritual music in history. And you want to know why? Because we're deaf. Because we know how to close the door to our homes, and we're deaf to what goes on outside of it. We are deaf to the noise of the street. We're deaf to the peanut gallery. We're deaf to the modernity. We're deaf to the billboards and the media and the people endlessly chasing the latest fad. The Jewish people make up 1% of the world and yet make up 100% of the world's sweetest, holiest children. The Jewish people make up 1% of the world and yet make up 100% of the most loving, caring, nourishing mothers on earth. The Jewish people make up 1% of the world and yet make up 100% of the world's holiest, purest, light-filled homes on earth. And you want to know why? Because we're deaf. Because we know how to close the door to our homes and look into the Torah that we got from our grandparents and use it as to generate our own happiness. Our passion and purpose in this world is not determined by someone writing for the Wall Street Journal or a YouTube influencer or business executives. Our passion and purpose in this world is determined by the Torah and the brave Yidden who heroically defended it throughout history. Our job isn't to take the Torah and fit it into the world. Our job is to take the world and fit it into the Torah. Our job is to close our doors a little more tightly and tap into the spiritual music inside our homes, the greatest form of music on earth. Here's one last story. A tour group was once taking a tour of the Louvre, the most famous art museum in the world, located in Paris, France. And amongst the group was a simple corn farmer from the state of Nebraska. When the group entered the room housing the Mona Lisa, considered by experts to be one of the most sophisticated and beautiful paintings in the world, one that's valued at over $1.5 billion, the farmer took one look and said, "What's the big deal? It's the woman with a half smile on her face. Doesn't look like much to me." And the tour guide stopped the tour, and he looked around to see who uttered those words, and he turned to the farmer and said, "Hundreds of art experts and art enthusiasts and art auctioneers and art collectors and artists came through these doors over the years and were in complete and sheer awe of this painting. This painting is not on trial. You are on trial. If you don't see the genius in this art, it's not a lack in the art, it's a lack in you." And with that, he marched off and went on with his tour. Thousands of kings and Nevi'im and Mekubalim and Rabbanim and sages and scholars and holy Babis and Zadis throughout our history walked through the doors of the world and were in utter awe of Hashem and His Torah. Avodas Hashem is not on trial. We are on trial. Will we bring alien fire into our lives, or will we bow at the feet of our Messiah and work on ourselves to see its unparalleled beauty?